Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching My Media Prime Television. I am Fon Quinter. This is the 6:30 p.m. edition of news coming to you live from Douala, Cameroon's economic capital. Begin today's edition of news in the southwest region, where the divisional officer of Ekondo TT, Abulau Timothy, and mayor of the same municipality, Indian Division, are reported to have been killed this Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022 in Bekoro after their vehicle stepped on an explosive device. It is not clear if the explosion that blew up the vehicle was a landmine or an improvised explosive device. According to sources in Indian Division, the incident happened at about 1:30 p.m. at Bekora, located a kilometer from Ekondo TT. The vehicle shot at was that of the mayor. And to something else, the Minister of Basic Education, Professor Laurent Serge Etundingwa, has disbursed funds to be used in the treatment of the pupil violently beaten by his teacher in the primary school in Douala. He made the declaration on day one of his two-day working visit in Douala, where he visited some primary schools. Details right ahead. Thursday, February 24th, 2022, videos of a teacher violently beating up a pupil with a machete, whip, hammer and pepper surfaced on social media. The act, described by many as barbaric, took place in a primary school in Douala, Cameroon's economic capital. It is against this backdrop that Cameroon's Minister of Basic Education, Professor Laurent Serge Etundingwa, paid a visit to Douala Monday, March 1, 2022, to ensure the safety of the pupil, take necessary measures, and equally visit other primary schools in the region.
Dans l'internet, à la télévision, tout le monde a vu ça.
It was on the internet and television. Everybody saw the torture. That's why we came to check the school and send a letter to this effect. As for the boy Isaac, funds will be disbursed to the governor of the Littoral region, who will make sure the boy is fine. Minister Laurent Serge Etundi used the opportunity to comfort the boy who was tortured by his teacher. He equally visited other institutions in Douala, one of which is Groupe Scolaire Bilingue Espérance Divine, located in Douala 4 subdivision, where a majority of pupils are internally displaced from the northwest and southwest regions. He attested the school is of good learning standard. Minister Laurent also visited Government English Primary School Ngwele in Bonneberry, Douala 4, that had been abandoned in terms of infrastructure, with pupils studying in an old and dilapidated structure. He promised the structure will be reconstructed. We are going to arrange this school in Ngwele. We will make it better. That's what we want to do. Basic Education Minister Laurent Serge Etundingwa was received yesterday by Governor of the Littoral region, Divisional Delegate for Basic Education, other administrative and judicial authorities. Some students and pupils in Yaoundé, Cameroon's capital city, have been very relaxed following the extension of the second term and examinations dates pushed forward. Central Regional Correspondent Clement spoke with an educationist and brought back the following.
The atmosphere in most schools in the nation's capital is still relaxed. Usually, the second term is the shortest term in the school year calendar. But this year, there has been an alteration as the government increased the duration of studies this time around. What could be accountable for this change?
Actually, it was a very short term, but it has been added. It's no longer short because we were to close in March. 3 weeks have been added, so we are going to close by in April. So we are still a bit relaxed, if I should say so. Yeah, whenever the kids are doing well. They took some of our time in school since most of the government schools were closing at 1. And I'm sure they want to catch up with the program of second term.
As change is constant, there is hope pupils and students will take advantage of the added time this school term to study hard. those in examination classes in the English subsystem and French subsystem of education will therefore burn their midnight candles as they prepare for the general certificates of education.
You need to be determined, you need to be focused, you need to be attentive and brave enough to determine whether it's success or it is failure, because all this thing is determination. You are the one to determine if you're to fail or if you're to pass. So in order to make it in your exams, you need to first of all do a timetable for yourself, you do a schedule for yourself, you read on the topics and lessons of your exams. Avoid cramming. You read and understand. When I mean read and understand, meaning you read something and explain it in your own words, meaning you don't cram, you don't sing a song like you sing. And you also need to read past questions and you answer the past questions. You ask yourself questions and you answer them by yourself. And you need to be stress-free. You need to totally be stress-free, and you keep away anything that's gonna distract you from reading or from understanding.
As advice to pupils and students,
They make sure they study well and they are on time, because we also notice that this second term many kids and pupils come late.
in the meantime, pupils and students are thus called upon to not relent effort in studying extremely hard towards these term examinations and public exams. Meanwhile, parents and guardians should endeavor to sacrifice some time to put these learners intact as teachers impart them with knowledge.
Sulaha, the Office of the Baccalaureate of Cameroon, has organized a 4-day capacity building workshop with author and recently appointed Chief of Centers in the town of Kribi. The seminar is aimed at improving efficiency in the organization of the official examination, as Catherine Ekongwe tells us.
The 10th Chief of Centers, recently appointed to the School of Management of Examinations in Kribi, will take part in a 4-day capacity building seminar led by the Director of Baccalaureate Office, Etienne Roger Minkolo. The seminar is aimed at improving efficiency in the organization of official examinations. The establishment of these heads of regional branches is a kind of decentralization for greater efficiency and serenity in the organization of official examinations.
On vient de nommer 10 chefs d'antenne régionales.
As you can see, we have just appointed the Chief of Centers in conform with the resolutions that govern them. It is a form of progressive decentralization, and now it is the person that will manage the Office of Baccalaureate in charge of organizing examinations. So it is men and women that are entering in function as from this session of the 2022 examination.
De l'organisation des examens.
The seminar will go a long way to manage the 2022 exam sessions.
We want to improve the skills of our colleagues who are going to act as regional representations of OBC. That's all. This is what we are going to do here. Through exposés and through networks, so that these sessions, these particular sessions, they will be able to act with more skills than they have to do before.
Note that all that was previously done at the central office will be decentralized in the 10 regions from this year for greater efficiency.
The Minister of Social Affairs, Pauline Irengene, yesterday presided over a workshop in Yaoundé to curb all forms of violence against women. The workshop brought together women from all walks of life. Colette Lung, once again.
Women of all walks of life have gathered today in a capacity building workshop under the theme, How Does Gender Equality or Inequality Underpins Public and Domestic Violence Against Women? The workshop that was chaired by the Minister of Social Affairs, Pauline Irengene, in Yaoundé today, March 1st, 2022, has as objective to curb and eradicate violence against women and ways to put a final nail on its ugly head.
The 37th International Women's Day that will be celebrated on March 8th next week. The Ministry of Social Affairs has deemed it necessary to organize this workshop on gender-based violence. It's a training workshop for the personnel of the Ministry of Social Affairs, and I have the opportunity as part of the Focus Education Consulting team to be presenting 3 papers here today. One on the generalities of gender-based violence, with focus on some socially vulnerable groups. On their list, they mention people with disabilities, the elderly, indigenous people, and children.
The event is in prelude to this year's 37th edition of Women's Day, and it is a light to women undergoing all forms of torture.
The objective, first of all, is for us to understand that 2 is better than 1. 2 is better than 1. And we will have to come out now with a plan of action that us in the Ministry of Social Affairs will use for the whole year. It will not just end here, or it will not just end within the Women's Day week. No, we will take it all along. You know, our ministry, we have our target population. Imagine a physically apt woman suffering violence. What more of a vulnerable woman? A woman who has disabilities, a woman who has other issues. So we have to really work so that we help our target population so that they don't suffer all those violence that you hear talking about.
All in all, violence is a cankerworm which must be put to an end, especially amongst women. Thus, there is hope that such initiative will go a long way to eradicate this societal ill.
Honorable Amina Turabo has donated gift of benches to some schools in Ganga and the Adamawa region of Cameroon. The gesture by the MP is part of the project to rehabilitate and foster infrastructural development of schools. Nora Kakebi with details.
Honorable député, les populations de la commune de Nganga sont heureuses non seulement de vous avoir parmi elles ce jour, mais surtout de savoir que vous n'êtes pas venu les mains vides.
Under the project of transforming the basic education sector, construct, rehabilitate and improve infrastructural development of schools, Member of Parliament for Ngaha, Honorable Aminatu Abo, has distributed over 100 benches to primary schools in the subdivision. The distribution exercise took place last Monday at the courtyard of the DO's office in Ngaha, in the presence of the divisional officer, the inspector of basic education and other local and administrative officials. This gift is part of the micro-project grants of the MP for Ngaha.
Je voudrais exprimer à nouveau toute ma joie d'être ici dans la ville de Ngaha.
As a member of parliament, it is my duty to enable children attend school in a conducive environment.
Du cadre et du bien-être de nos jeunes enfants à l'âge d'aller à l'école.
It is a gesture that comes from my heart to offer these benches to schools. It is simply to enable children to study.
Et pour moi, le premier geste d'une série que je voudrais offrir à nos jeunes frères de ces différents établissements.
The divisional officer for Ngaha, Fabrice Bissa, calls on elites of the subdivision to emulate the footsteps of the MP. On behalf of the beneficiaries, the head teacher appreciated the MP's gesture. We have received the gift from the MP, Honorable Aminatu Abo, with plenty of joy in our hearts. Before, we did not have good and sufficient benches in our schools, but this donation will certainly help our children study conveniently. We are thankful. Knowledge is power, and with such gestures from conscious Cameroonians, education will be promoted and nation building is assured.
A one-day workshop against killer robots has taken place in Yaoundé, organized by a non-governmental organization with Cameroon. The workshop is part of a campaign against all forms of autonomous lethal weapons, as Eileen Sama tells us.
In its fight against the development of autonomous weapon systems, also known as killer robots, the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, dubbed with Cameroon, has launched a national campaign to that effect.
About the lethal autonomous weapon system, we are looking at how the world is being dominated by the conflicts. We have conflicts in our country, in our continent, in the world. There are conflicts everywhere. and there is a risk that all kinds of weapons are used in those conflicts. And the lethal autonomous weapon systems, commonly known as killer robots, they pose a major threat to human life. That's why we are looking at our national legislation to see if it takes in consideration these weapons, and if it's not the case, what we can actually do to integrate it in our legislation.
It is important to note that WAVE Cameroon is also targeting experts on artificial intelligence, CSOs, and the government of Cameroon in its advocacy for the campaign against lethal autonomous weapon systems. Guy Blaise Fekap, coordinator of WAVE Cameroon, highlights.
We have here the government representatives, we have civil society organizations, and we also have experts who work in the fields of artificial intelligence and innovation technologies, and they support our advocacy to have a law in our country that prohibits the use of lethal autonomous weapon system. And beyond, we also want to see what our country is taking as steps to contribute to the international advocacy that is to aim at banning the lethal autonomous weapon systems.
The one-day training workshop on killer robots took place in Yaoundé, the nation's capital, and has been running for years now, organized by WAVE Cameroon every year since the creation of the NGO, which works for the promotion of peace and security in Cameroon and beyond.
In the southwest region, some 40 benches have been donated to 5 primary schools in Limbe by the Paramount Chief-elect of Limbe, His Royal Highness Elufa John Manga Williams. The benches were handed over to head teachers of various schools during a ceremony at the Chamber of Commerce Down Beach, Limbe. Catherine Konge completes the story.
The Paramount Chief-elect of Limbe, His Royal Highness Olufa John Manga Williams, has donated some 40 benches to 5 primary schools in Limbe. The benches were handed to the head teachers of the beneficiary schools during a brief ceremony at the Chamber of Commerce Down Beach. The representative of the Divisional Delegate of Basic Education for Fako Tabali Roslin applauded the Paramount Chief for quickly attending to the needs of the school children.
Look, I'm happy. This is the second time he's doing this gesture to his chiefdom. Yes, last time he came out with he gave out certain number of benches to primary schools. This time again he has made another offer and has given to other schools. To me, that is an example to be emulated. It is worthy of his personality, so I'm too grateful. These benches will go a lot to help our children. With the growing populations due to the influx of children coming into our subdivision, these benches will at least help in accommodation.
Chief John Manga nonetheless affirmed he saw the schools were in need and decided to help, for his actions were not political but geared towards assisting school children wherever they may be found.
Mission school, it means that the parents have the means. I think that we've also gone around the mission schools and the public schools, but we realize that more of these children attend public schools, and so we think it's our responsibility when we go around and see the states, the conditions under which it's coming. It's been normal that we just have to take our reserves and see what we can do to alleviate the situation. Today, again, we have 40.
The Paramount ruler hoped more will be done in the days ahead as the means becomes available. The primary schools which benefited from the gesture included Government School Down Beach Group 1, Ecole Publique Down Beach, Anglo-Arabic Primary School, Government School Southeast Community, and Government School Busumbu.
We thank the Paramount Chief for these benches. At first, we were sitting on the floor, but now we have the deck to sit up.
The head teachers and pupils present wholeheartedly received the Paramount ruler's gift, saying it was timely.
Friday, March 4th has been programmed for the election of Limbus City Mayor. This is contained in a communique signed by the Senior Divisional Officer for FACO, inviting all stakeholders involved to actively participate in the election process. Kuma Onore reports from Limbe.
Members of the FACO 1B section of the CPDM party held an extraordinary session on Sunday, February 27th, with deliberations centered on a close examination of the candidate from FACO 1B for the coveted position of the Limbus City Mayor. After carefully perusing the files of the three candidates, the FACO 1B Executive Bureau members unanimously endorsed the candidacy of Chief Woka Daniel Ngalendive as their candidate to run for the post of the Limbus City Mayor.
There may be resistance. We will not doubt us. It is normal that there should be resistance. But we are prepared to convince them because we can sell our candidate very well for what he has done and who he is. That's the idea.
The FACO 1B section president, Elukemba Ephraim, is therefore calling on all the councillors of Limbe 1, 2 and 3 to rally behind their candidate as he has proven his worth as a charismatic and dynamic personality since his election as mayor of the Limbe 2 municipality some 2 years ago.
It's certain that the FACO 1B has 1, 2 or 3 candidates. FACO 1C may have also 2. But it is the ballot box that is going to speak for all the candidates. That is why we are selling our Limbe 2 mayor, who is the most qualified and suitable for that position as compared to all the other candidates.
It should be noted that Mayor Woka Daniel Ndive is the pioneer president of the YCPDM in FACO 1B, has militated with the CPDM party for more than 15 years and has contributed to the growth of the party in FACO East constituency with his great mobilizing skills and sense of leadership. Meantime, the Senior Divisional Officer for FACO, Emmanuel Ngamba Ledu, has issued a communique inviting all mayors and councillors of the 3 subdivisional councils in Limbe to take part in an elective extraordinary session slated for Friday, March 4th.
In the West region, the closing ceremony of the 55th edition of the Ngimnu Festival took place last Saturday on the esplanade of the Plaza Lafayette of the Bamindum Chiefdom, a festival that allowed the people to enter into communion with their ancestral customs. Joyngong completes the story.
As an intangible heritage of the Bamindu people, the 55th edition of the Ngimnu Festival came to an end last Saturday and the second of its kind in modern times.
This cultural jamboree of Bamindu people was an occasion to list and identify elements that surround the secularity of the Bamindu people.
The high point of the ceremony was the performance of the Ngimnu dance, an initiation dance at the origin of the foundation of the Bamindu Superior Chiefdom. The traditional ruler of the Bamindu invited his people to visit the Kebron Lee Museum to witness live and direct the fusion of the second Tuka mask with its original in June.
On ne peut pas oublier la peine qu'a enduré tout le peuple Bamindu depuis 1900.
We cannot forget the sufferings of the Bamindu people since 1957, the year when the original Ntuka mask was taken away by the French citizen Dr. Pierre Abed, and it's today conserved at the Quai Brûlé Museum. It is one of the most refresher artifacts in the world today.
Une œuvre d'art référentielle du monde.
The cultural dance parades of different sacred societies displayed the beauty of the visible and invisible arts of the Bamindu people in the Penka Michel subdivision, Menoir division of the West region of Cameroon. The ritual outing of the Ntuka mask marked the official closing of this edition of the Ngimnu Festival.
Until Health, the month of March is set aside as Tuberculosis Awareness Month that remains a leading cause of death worldwide. In this report, Bokengo Wada gives us an insight about the disease and why the month of March is Tuberculosis Awareness Month. Her report.
Tuberculosis is a potentially serious infectious disease that mainly affects the lungs. The disease is the top infectious killer disease in the world, with an estimated 1.5 million deaths yearly. Transmitted from person to person by droplets of coughs or sneezes by infected person, tuberculosis is often spread widely in poorly ventilated areas, most especially between family members, colleagues, close friends, spouses, due to proximity and amount of time spent together, with symptoms such as chills, fever, fatigue, loss of appetite, weight loss, coughing up of blood, and many more. The disease is said to be dormant in about 1/3 of the world's population, showing no sign or symptoms, and cannot be transmissible depending on the strength of one's immune system. However, if the immune system is compromised by immunosuppressive drugs and other triggers such as malnutrition, aging, smoking, HIV, the tuberculosis-causing bacteria gets to replicate and spread throughout the lungs, causing active pulmonary tuberculosis, which is more severe, contagious, and infectious. Over time, tuberculosis can affect other parts of the body, including the kidneys, brain, spine, causing health complications like meningitis, heart disorders, joint damage, liver and kidney failure, amongst others. Although tuberculosis is highly treatable, many infectious persons shy away from receiving treatment due to associated stigma such as HIV that surrounds the disease. In this light, every month of March worldwide is commemorated as Tuberculosis Awareness Month in a bid to raise awareness about the devastating impacts of tuberculosis, share strategic measures to help combat the disease, as well as break stigma surrounding the disease so as to help reduce its prevalence worldwide, as well as flatten the curves of yearly deaths.
Bukengo, while this report ends today's edition of Prime News on My Media Prime Television. Coming up just after the news is Prime Hour with Kumlenat and HT. My name is Fon Quinter. Good night.